Welcome back, everyone. Now, I talk about the Watchers quite often on this channel, and in 2026, I think one of the most important questions we can ask is, why does their story still matter today? The idea that ancient forces still influencing modern civilization, and I know for most people, it is not that hard to understand, especially when you start connecting ancient records to modern technological leaps. The pattern becomes harder to ignore. This is a story about forbidden knowledge versus natural human development. We already have this running theory that humanity's rapid technological progress is not completely organic, and that we are being gifted knowledge that was once intentionally buried. In Enoch, the Watchers are described as heavenly entities who descended to earth and directly interfered with human affairs, instead of just watching or guiding. The Bible itself references Watchers, Nephilim, giants, and fallen angels, especially in passages like Genesis 6, where it speaks of the sons of God intermingling with human women and producing hybrid offspring. Now, the offspring, the Nephilim, were described as giants and mighty beings, right? Feared for their power and corruption. Now, we don't know how much time or how often the Watchers interacted with their offspring, but we do know the Watchers were around long enough to teach forbidden knowledge before they were bound and imprisoned, including advanced metallurgy, weapon creation, astronomy. Just astronomy alone. How long do you think it would take to teach a population about everything they need to know about astronomy? Enough to build off and gain better understanding of it in the future. Enchantments, the manipulation of natural forces, witchcraft, right? That's not something you can learn overnight. This knowledge was considered dangerous because it accelerated human power faster than moral and spiritual maturity could keep up with, you see? So really, it was this imbalance that ultimately led to catastrophic judgment and the flood narrative. So the question is, now that the Watchers are bound and their offspring still roam free as disembodied evil spirits, how much influence and power do the Watchers still hold over us, even though they are bound? How much influence and power do their offspring have? I guess maybe the better question is, or maybe something we should just keep in mind is, who has power over them? Influence is anything that shapes your thoughts, emotions, or behavior by something that is external, something that is observable, that can affect you psychologically. It shows up in everyday life more than people realize through things like social pressure and media messaging. There are cultural expectations too. In some instances, there is emotional manipulation, persuasion. We have authority figures, past experiences. Most of the time, influence works through a mix of conscious and subconscious, which is why you can usually trace where it came from if you slow down and really think about it. It might look like a commercial that suddenly makes you want something you didn't care about 5 minutes ago, right? I'm sure many of you have friends that gradually shape how you see certain issues. Maybe you hear a powerful speaker motivating a crowd. Fear-driven news stories change how people behave, right? or the simple desire for social approval guides people's decisions. And so what we're talking about is this type of influence works through belief and emotion. It works through repetition and your perception, which is why it's effective. At the same time, it's often something you can see and observe. It is visible and explainable, which means it can be recognized, right? And resisted by just using critical thinking. You just have to be self-aware enough to catch yourself and pause and question why you feel or think a certain way. Now, spiritual influence works on a deeper, more internal level. And spiritual influence will shape things like intuition and your emotional state. It will affect your awareness and that inner sense of right and wrong that's hard to fully explain. It influences your morality. And the way this shows up is through intuition or this type of inner knowing. This type of influence is present in someone's emotions, how sensitive to certain energies they are, gut feelings. There is a sense of alignment or resistance you sometimes feel without knowing why. Spiritual influence works through subtlety. It works in between emotional shifts or energetic responses. So that influence taps deep into the subconscious. Spiritual influence is like suddenly being uneasy around someone for no logical reason, or feeling strongly drawn to certain people or certain places. You'll be attracted to certain ideas, or having moments of sudden clarity that seem to come out of nowhere. There can be this emotional heaviness in certain environments, or on the flip side, there's a deep sense of peace and alignment when something just feels right. Okay, so we're talking about feelings and inner awareness, so it would be hard to put into words. Think of it as an internal guidance. It's quiet, but it's the thing that pulls you in a certain direction. So the watchers, okay, so this is how it works. Well, let me correct myself. This is how I believe it works. Even within the ancient stories, the idea is that the watchers, even though they are bound and imprisoned, meaning they should have no power or influence over mankind, they somehow managed to still leave a lasting imprint on humanity through their knowledge, the actions they took in their offspring. The influence doesn't necessarily come from direct contact, right? But from what was already set in motion a long time ago. Their teachings, the technology, the distortions of natural order, that is what has shaped early civilizations and belief systems. The gods and power structures, right? Creating patterns that carried forward through generations. So in that sense, their influence is about legacy, hierarchies, control systems that continue to influence culture, politics, and human behavior. The Watchers really did a number on us, but that type of influence is external. Now, the Watchers' offspring, the giants, who are now the demons of the world, the idea is that because they no longer have physical form, their influence shows up internally rather than externally, because they primarily work through emotion, thought, impulse, and subconscious awareness. Pain and fear seem to be their favorite methods for breaking down a person spiritually, right? So instead of direct control, their presence is set to feel more like pressure. There's temptation, right? What goes on in your head becomes distorted, and with all that emotional weight, it pushes human behavior in certain directions. We're talking about intrusive thoughts, irrational fear, cravings, destructive impulses, inner conflict. You see, so rather than forcing actions, this influence works quietly and can slowly pull a person away from clarity and self-control. And you only really get to the point of possession once you are broken down so much that you give up and give yourself over to the thing that has been trying to get into your head and possess your body in the end. Media, symbolism, occult imagery. There are hidden references that appear consistently in movies, television, music videos, advertising. There's predictive programming so that the public is conditioned to accept abnormal things as normal. Entertainment normalizes ideas that once felt disturbing, right? You hear people talk about that all the time. Sci-fi often acts as preparation narratives these days. Stories of artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, human-machine integration, interdimensional contact, that's all mainstream now. Over time, narratives shape expectations, and people try and get ready for changes. Scientific and technological breakthroughs now occur much faster than historical patterns. We've had sudden leaps in quantum physics, artificial intelligence, genetics, computing. It feels like almost overnight, without the gradual development one would expect. Entire scientific fields come out of nowhere, while back-to-back discoveries stack on top of each other faster than humanity can ethically or philosophically process them. And so when you have the intelligence explosion of AI and the rapid advancement of genetic engineering, who can help but to ask if modern science is uncovering knowledge that was once lost or forbidden? You see, this rate of progress feels less like natural evolution and more like the reopening of doors that were sealed long ago. As artificial intelligence grows more powerful, people's spiritual identities get weaker because it will gradually handle decision making, creativity, and judgment. People will become more morally confused as their ethics struggle to keep up with the innovation. Control just keeps expanding because of convenience and automation. And if humanity is truly rediscovering ancient forbidden knowledge, then the same dangers described in pre-flood texts may be happening again. So yeah, the Watchers are bound, chained, and buried in the earth, far from influencing us directly. Their children still roam the earth, ruining things with their demonic influence. With that said, let's keep in mind that the Watchers weren't the only angels that fell. Anyway, that's going to be all for now, and there is more to come. Please click the thumbs up button and like this video for me. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Everyone have a great day, and until next time, folks, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.